A man suffers bites to his legs, buttocks and finger after otters pounce on him. 29 HDB flats selling for at least $1 million last month, setting a new record. And in this week's Life Picks, the power of the dog, keeping you in suspense until the very end. Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. A man's visit to the Singapore Botanic Gardens last week ended with him in hospital after he was attacked by a group of otters, which left him with over 20 wounds, including bites on the legs and buttocks. Graham George Spencer, who's in his 60s, telling my colleagues that the incident happened while he was completing a routine morning walk with a friend near the garden's Taman Serasi entrance. At Glen Eagles Hospital, he was given tetanus shots and oral antibiotics and had some wounds stitched up. And he has since returned to the hospital 3 times to treat his wounds. Let's bring in Ambarasi Bhupal, co-CEO of wildlife rescue group Acres. Ambu, in Mr. Spencer's case, he says the otters only, quote, went crazy after another man ran towards them. Well, they initially attacked this other man who then ran past Mr. Spencer, and this led the otters to then target Mr. Spencer, and he theorizes that they must have thought he was the runner. Generally, though, in what situations do otters attack?
I think this is a really unfortunate incident, and I hope that he recovers well. Wild animals such as otters actually don't attack humans unless they feel cornered or threatened. That too mainly for social animals such as otters, wild boars, and monkeys as well. Just like us, they are very protective of their young. So which means if humans approach or go through a family which has pups or young too close, they will tend to defend their babies and will try to remove their threat. That is possibly what could have happened in this unfortunate incident as well. Otherwise, otters actually have no reason to approach humans at all. In fact, it's us who end up approaching them most often in many areas to take a good photo of them using our phones.
Well then, Anbu, as a general rule, what should people do when they encounter otters, and not just, the aggressive ones?
I think the golden rule when people come across wild animals is really to keep a respectful distance from the animals. In case of otters, definitely several meters. It's actually a key for many wildlife encounters. So in Singapore, we will encounter wild animals inevitably in our green spaces, but everyone actually needs to practice wildlife etiquette. There is a lot of information online in terms of advisories, and also there are so many publicly available signs as well. So it now actually boils down to us, every individual, to actually practice what we see on these signs and practice very mindfully so others don't get affected. It's almost like driving. We can be safe drivers, but it requires everyone on the road to practice safe driving to make the road safe. So it would apply also for practicing wildlife etiquette in order to prevent human-wildlife conflict.
But if someone is attacked or bitten by an otter, Anbu, what are the risks of disease?
I think for wild animals here itself, Singapore is proudly rabies-free, and NParks also monitors the wildlife health populations here. So if there is a bite case, just like another open injury where there is bleeding, we would only advise people to get medical help as usual to actually address the injury itself. But there's no risks of diseases that people may often fear of, for example, rabies that was mentioned.
Okay, well, and then, sightings of the Singapore otters have become rather commonplace these days when they used to be quite rare. Is it time to start thinking about its population control?
Basically, in Singapore, we have seen an increase in the otter population over several decades in the past. That is because we have a suitable environment which is welcoming for these wild animals, not just otters. Roughly, I think in Singapore, we have about 11 otter families here. But we do have an otter working group, which has very efficient members, such as otter watchers, who are members of public who closely monitor their movements, their dynamics. We have QB, NUS, and Parks, Mandai Wildlife Group, and also ACRES in it. And these otters are monitored regularly. And because I think otters are, compared to other animals, they are more visible. People might tend to think that there is more otters here. But naturally in the wild, these wild animals and their population actually go through changes and variation in response to the environment, not just from resources, but also from, say, food as well. That is why it's very actually important that feeding of wildlife is prohibited under our law. So we don't have to artificially do anything to manage their population. There is no need to do that. Their population is also managed naturally in their own ways. When there are territorial battles, some otters unfortunately do lose their lives. And also, living in an urban city like in Singapore, they do face other threats like becoming a roadkill as well, which we have witnessed before. So there is no need to artificially manage their population at this point.
Thank you so much, Anbu. Very informative, very educational. Ambarasi Bhupal, co-CEO of ACRES. In other news, the HDB resale market setting a new record in November with 29 flats selling for at least $1 million, breaking the previous record of $26 million units in August. And the most expensive flat sold last month, $1.268 million for a 5-room design, build and sell scheme unit at City View at Boon Keng. Journalist Michelle Ng has more on what a year it's been for the HDB resale market.
The HDB resale market has been doing really well this past year. So it has become some sort of a seller's market. So it's really good if you're looking to sell your HDB flat. But if you are a buyer, it's not so good because prices have been rising for the past 17 months, which is since around June last year when Singapore came out of the circuit breaker period. So this year, the HDB resale market has broken a few records. For example, prices now are basically the highest it has been since the last peak in 2013. And last month, like in November, resale prices have increased in both mature and non-mature estates and across all flat types. So yeah, it's not really the best news for buyers, to be honest. And another record that has been broken this year is also in terms of $1 million HDB flats. So far, up until end of last month and November, there have been 223 flats that have been sold for at least $1 million. So compared to last year as in 2020, there were only 82 such units for the whole of 2020. So this year, we are looking at about 2.5 times more of such units. And this year, we have also seen some record pricing. So for example, the most expensive resale flat sold in Singapore thus far is $1.36 million for a 5-room DBSS in Bishan. But to put things into context, a price tag of over $1.3 million for a HDB resale flat is still very, very rare. So I think so far we have got about 2. And so they are by no means going to be like normal. They are most definitely still outliers for now. For next year, property analysts are also widely expecting this robust performance to continue, especially since some buyers will probably be concerned about whether there are going to be further construction delays in BTO projects because of the Omicron variant. So I think looking forward, home buyers should really think hard about whether they want to jump into the property market now or if they're okay to wait. Just looking at the current situation.
9 Swedish MNCs in Singapore will double their paid paternity leave from 2 to 4 weeks starting next year. Well, here are the 9 firms, which include H&M and AstraZeneca, and they've signed the #DoubleUp pledge and are inviting others to join in to encourage men to actively participate in caregiving roles, allowing women a more equal footing in the workplace. The move was inspired by Swedish furniture giant IKEA, who doubled paid paternity leave back in 2017. Overseas, New Zealand plans to put forward new legislation next year to create a smoke-free generation, effectively banning the sale of tobacco to people born after 2008. The legal age of 18 for buying tobacco will be raised progressively by 1 year every year, starting in 2027.
We want to make sure young people never start smoking, so we are legislating for a smoke-free generation by making it an offence to sell or supply tobacco products to those aged 14 when the law comes into effect. As they age, they and future generations will never legally be able to purchase tobacco, because the truth is there is no safe age to start smoking.
CHILDAID is returning to the live stage this year, and the young performers are ready to shine. Organised by the Straits Times and the Business Times, the annual charity concert will take place this evening at Resorts World Sentosa. The guest of honour is President Halima Yaacob. Now, CHILDAID raises money for the Straits Times School Pocket Money Fund and the Business Times Budding Artists Fund. Its artistic director, Jeremiah Choi, joins us now. It's a hybrid concert this year, Jeremiah, with both a physical and virtual audience. Is everyone ready to put on a good show?
Yes, we are as ready as we can be. It's a bit difficult this year to do a rehearsal for the show. As you know, the show is going to happen on the 9th of December, but we were supposed to start rehearsals 2 weeks ago, but we couldn't have a full physical contact rehearsal because of the situation 2 weeks ago, as the numbers of infection was a little bit high. And we're dealing with a lot of children, especially children under the age of 12, and some of them are not vaccinated. So we have to limit our physical rehearsal to only 4 days. But we are as ready as we can be.
Fingers crossed then for tonight. Well, Jeremiah, let's talk about the talent this year. I understand there are 31 performers in total, including a couple of first-timers. Do tell us more.
Yes. Unfortunately, we have to reduce the number of the usual performers from 200 over to about 31. We had about 400 people submitting their audition tapes and all that. It's quite heartbreaking for us to actually reduce the number of people to 31 because of the number of performers and crew is limited to only 50, this year as we are having a live performance. But having said that, I'm happy to say that we really have a very good program this year, which comprises of both alumni members and new members as it is. We made a very considered effort to make sure that we do have a good balance of both. As for the performers, we have people who've just gotten first and second prizes of the National Piano and Violin competition. We also have a gold prize winner who is a ballet performer of the National Youth Festival. We also have dancers, singers, musicians such as violinists, harpists, and cellists joining us this year as well. So I think it is a very interesting program that we put together, altogether 12 items, exactly about 1 hour. So I think you'll be expecting a good one.
Fantastic. Well, definitely a concert to look forward to. That was CHILDAID's artistic director, Jeremiah Choi. Hey, don't miss the show tonight. You can catch it at 7:30 p.m. on the Straits Times' Facebook and YouTube channels, as well as on the Straits Times website. Let's get ready for the weekend with some exciting live pigs at the movies and the theatre, and for your tummy as well. Coming up, Benedict Cumberbatch looks tantalizing in The Power of the Dog. Will film correspondent Joan Louis give it a 5-star rating? Also, the Japanese folktale of Momotaro gets a refresh by the folks at Wild Rice just in time for the holidays. But first, we have a treat, a mouth-watering one for fans of bak kut teh. Senior food correspondent Wong Ayuk is here. Ayuk, tell us more about this popular bak kut teh seller who's back in business.
Okay, hi, yeah, that's right. I don't know whether you're a fan of this bak kut teh that used to be in Sin Ming Road. It's called Rong Chen Rou Gu Cha. which is like the Hanyu Pinyin name of Bak Kut Teh. And it's opened by this Uncle Lim Hai Che, who is now in his 70s. He opened it like more than 40 years ago, but 2 years ago, actually, he decided to retire and the brand was gone. But happily for all the fans, he's back. He's got a new partner, a new disciple who's decided to partner him. And they have actually opened 2 new stores and 1 coming up soon. So the first one that opened was in Ang Mo Kio, and they also opened up another one in Bedok last month. And the third one will open in Tampines on December 16th. And the stall is actually known for introducing what they call the dragon ribs, which is like the big pork ribs, the one with the long bone. So they specialize in that, and they have brought that back as well. It's a little bit more expensive. It costs $9 for that portion, but the big ribs are really, really good because there's a lot of meat in it, and he doesn't cook it too soft, so there's still a lot of bite. And when you bite, you get the real flavor and the juices of the pork. So that's the specialty there. And if you are trying out the store for the first time, you should really try that dish. But if you are thinking that it's a bit too expensive, they do have the normal ribs too. That's about $6.50. Besides Bak Kut Teh, they also have other dishes. So they have a pig liver soup, which I also like as well, because Uncle Lim doesn't cook his liver too much, so it doesn't get too tough. And you can have like a pork stomach, and he does a very good braised pork trotter as well. And one thing that's a little bit different from other Bak Kut Teh stores, instead of the salted vegetable that most stores serve, this store serves a mei cai instead. So it's not the salted vegetables, it's slightly sweet, and the mei cai goes very well with the pork trotter. If you are looking for a new place to try that's not too expensive, or you're just a fan of Rong Chen Ru Gu Cha and you want to try it again, they're back.
That was senior food correspondent Wong Ah-yuk. Now, I'm a huge fan of actor Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm really looking forward to The Power of the Dog, streaming now on Netflix. Our film correspondent John Lui has given it a 4-star rating. John, come on, why not 5?
Well, I rarely ever give out 5 stars because it means it's perfect. It's not a perfect film, but it's a very good film. You like Benedict Cumberbatch? This is a side of him that we rarely ever see, and that's him playing a bad guy. Do you like films in which the evil guy is the main character?
Of course, why not? I'm willing to give Benedict Cumberbatch, a chance to show in this kind of role. So how does he do in that sort of villainous role?
He's actually quite good. If you like films with, like Taxi Driver, films like that, where the main character is disturbed and unhappy and bitter and angry, you like this one because it's a character study of a guy who's eating himself from the inside out. So this is a Western. It's set on a farm around the early 1900s. And it's a family of people that is like a blended family, right? So you got 2 brothers, Benedict and Jesse Clemens. They play ranchers. And then in comes the love interest, played by Kirsten Dunst, and she brings along her son. And then warfare starts. And that's when the true evil of the character Phil, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, comes out. And then the rest of the film is the antagonism and the hatred coming out.
Film correspondent John Lui. And last but not least, who doesn't love a good pantomime, especially at this time of the year? Senior culture correspondent Ong Sophan is here to tell us more about Momotaro and the Magnificent Peach. Gotta say, Sophan, I really like that name.
Yes, it's actually the name of the lead character, and it's actually Wild Rice's take on this very old Japanese legend about a boy who's born from a peach. So in typical Wild Rice pantomime fashion, they've updated this old-fashioned fable in new ways. So you get to see a lot of song and dances. They've incorporated themes about environmental pollution and sustainability. And it's also very, very fun because they've incorporated Japanese pop culture elements into the show. So you get like a fight sequence that's inspired by the video game Street Fighter.
senior culture correspondent Ong Saw Fen. From arts to travel to food and entertainment, you can find more life pics and the latest news at str.sg/life. And for more ideas on how to entertain your kids during the school holidays, there's a whole section just on that, including 5 new kid-friendly attractions to check out this month. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.